What's going on, guys? How's everyone doing? As you can tell from the title, we're talking about three insane NBA trades that almost went through. All of these trades would have highly changed the landscape of the NBA, and there is no telling what the NBA would look like right now.
Lin puts it up. Bang! Jeremy Lin from downtown, and the Knicks take the lead.
At number 3, LeBron James for Kobe Bryant. You may think this is a crazy trade to be on the bottom of my list. The reason for that is because it wasn't that close to going through, but it was still a legitimate possibility during the 2007 season. The possible trade originally came to the surface after Kobe requested a trade from the Lakers due to the lack of help he received after Shaq left. The initial trade package by the Lakers was presumed to be Kobe Bryant, and we can assume maybe some scrubs or some other draft picks. In return, they wanted LeBron. Basically, this trade would have been the best player in the league for the guy who was next up in LeBron James. This trade would have kept the Lakers in contention for the playoffs, but it's unknown if they would have been able to acquire Pau Gasol or even KG, who was also in the discussion as the Lakers' second star back in 2007. Not only that, but it's possible that LeBron could have stayed in LA rather than going to Miami just 3 years later. On the other hand, the Cavs would have been getting older and would only be competing for a few more seasons, but I think Kobe probably would have left once his contract was up. The first reason it didn't work is simply because the Cavs didn't want to give up LeBron, which is fair, considering the 22-year-old just came off a finals appearance. The Cavs said they would give up anyone else on their roster for Kobe, and the Lakers immediately hung up the phone. Not only that, but Kobe had a no trade clause, and he said he would only play for Chicago and San Antonio. But could you imagine if LeBron and Kobe laced up together? That would undoubtedly be the greatest duo to ever play in the NBA.
At number 2, Dwight Howard for Brook Lopez.
I know this trade doesn't sound that exciting at the surface, but just hear me out. This trade was back in 2012 during prime Dwight. People forget how great he was at this time, as he was coming off 3 straight Defensive Player of the Year awards. The reason the Magic were planning on moving such a valuable piece was due to issues with the front office.
Do you believe that Dwight has asked for you to be fired?
Yes, I know he has, so.
And how do you know it's true?
I was told it was true by people in our management. So, right from the top.
The trade package originally consisted of Brook Lopez, Chris Humphries, Gerald Wallace, Marshawn Brooks, and multiple first-round picks. This trade, to me, creates so many what-ifs. The biggest one being what happens to the Paul Pierce-Kevin Garnett trade. If the Nets were going to give up multiple first-round picks to Orlando, the deal with the Celtics would have never gone through, as they wouldn't have been able to give up those future first-round picks. This also means that some other team is obviously likely to make a deal for KG or Paul Pierce. There were no real potential deals on the table for Paul Pierce, except for a possible Paul Pierce-Pau Gasol trade. On the other hand, there were multiple trades set on the table for KG, the biggest one being an up-and-coming Josh Smith from the Hawks. But let's get back to the original deal. If this happens, do you think the Nets team would have failed as bad as they did with Dwight instead of KG and Paul Pierce? A large part of their failure was due to injuries, which is Dwight was also experiencing that next season with the Lakers, as he heavily struggled with back injuries. Overall, this trade would completely change the way we see the Eastern Conference today.
At number 1, Steph Curry for Amar'e Stoudemire.
This one to me is by far the craziest scenario, as it was on draft day of 2009. If this potential scenario was to go through, we would see Steph Curry, Andreas Biedrins, Kalina Azubuike, Brandon Wright, and Marco Bellinelli traded for Amar'e Stoudemire. The reason this was even a possibility of going through was due to Del Curry saying this.
Go back to the draft day. I remember Don Nelson calling me and say, "Hey, what's your feelings toward drafting our son?" I said, "We don't." You asked me the question, I'm gonna tell you the truth, don't. And the conversation went on. He said, "Well, if we get the opportunity, we're going to do it." I said, "Coach, that's your decision."
If this trade was to go through, I think we all know what wouldn't have happened. But let's start from the beginning.
For the first few seasons of Steph's career, he'd either have to play behind Steve Nash, or he'd have to adjust to playing the 2, which he was used to due to playing with Monte Ellis.
Another thing that wouldn't have happened was Linsanity. Jeremy Lin would have still been the backup point guard in Golden State, so he wouldn't have been cut from the Warriors. Also, Amari Stoudemire wouldn't have ended up in New York, so that whole scenario wouldn't even happen. It's also likely if the Suns got Steph, they would have gone in a full rebuild mode. On the other hand, the Warriors would be in contention for the playoffs for a few seasons, with a duo of Monte and Stoudemire. Although, it's not always about now, it's about the future. With Amari, they wouldn't have traded for Bogut, probably wouldn't have been able to draft Clay, and there's a possibility they don't even get Draymond Green. With all of these changes, it's obvious the Warriors dynasty would cease to exist, meaning LeBron would most likely have a ring in 2015. We see no 73-9 record in 2016, no 3-point records broken by the Splash Brothers in 2016, and a Cavs vs Thunder finals. Also, to add on to that, KD would have stayed in OKC. In 2017, Kawhi would have gotten injured due to the fact that it was a freak accident, and we most likely would have seen a Spurs or OKC vs Cavs in 2017 finals. In 2018, Kyrie may have stayed due to the possible 3 straight finals wins. In the Western Conference, we'd have 3 contenders in Houston, San Antonio, and OKC. And we'd have a heavily competitive finals. Not only that, but Kawhi never would have left, meaning we probably would see Giannis's first finals appearance. After this, the possibilities are endless, and there's no telling what we could expect. I hope you guys enjoyed. It was definitely fun to put together and see how these crazy trade scenarios changed the landscape of the NBA. If you guys liked it, let me know down below, or just like the video and try to get to 10 likes. If we get to 10 likes, I'll definitely make another one. That would be incredible. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.